The moment she stepped into the company lobby, everything changed. Lina wasn't expecting much from her first day, just a job, a new beginning. But then she looked up and saw him. James Hahn, the youngest self-made CEO in the city, a man whose name carried both power and mystery. People whispered about his brilliance, his fortune, his cold perfection. No one knew the price he had paid to earn it. Years of sleepless nights, failures, and deals had built his empire and buried his past. Success became his armor, silence his refuge. Yet when their eyes met for the first time in over a decade, something inside him cracked. He didn't recognize her face, not yet, but his heart did. Some memories don't fade, they just wait for the right moment to return. Lina froze, unsure why her pulse quickened. She'd seen him only on magazine covers, never imagining he was the boy who once carved her name into an oak tree. The man before her looked untouchable, tailored, powerful, untamed by time. But behind that control was the same look she remembered from childhood, the look of someone trying to be brave while saying goodbye. As their names crossed again, one on a resume, the other on the building itself, fate smiled quietly. Two lives that had run in opposite directions were about to collide again, not by chance, but by promise. And when destiny keeps its word, it never does so gently. They were 10 years old, when standing beneath an old oak that had witnessed generations of secrets. Lina's laughter mixed with the rustle of leaves as James carved their names into the bark. "No matter where you go," he said with quiet certainty, "I'll find you." She believed him, not because she was naive, but because some words simply carry the weight of truth. That was the day a childhood promise became destiny. The world was still simple then, drawn in summer skies and unspoken dreams. They didn't understand love, yet somehow they did. It wasn't about forever. It was about faith. Faith that two souls could recognize each other again, no matter how far time scattered them. Lina tucked that belief into her heart, not as a wish, but as something solid, like a compass that would always point home. James didn't grow up with comfort. While others had guidance, he had determination. When his family lost everything, he learned that survival was an art and ambition his only tool. The boy who once promised to find her became the man who built empires. He wore success like armor, never realizing he was still protecting a part of himself that belonged to her. Lina, on the other hand, carried purpose where others carried fear. When her family left the country, she didn't cry. She watched the shoreline fade and whispered, "He'll find me." Not a plea, but a conviction. Even oceans couldn't silence a promise like that. And though years would blur faces and names, some things, like destiny, never forget their way back. Lina never stopped believing in the promise, but belief alone wasn't enough. So she began writing letters, not to be answered, but to be remembered. Each word carried her growth, her doubts, her quiet triumphs. She spoke to the boy who once swore to find her, even if she knew the world had already changed him. Some people pray, others write. Both are ways to keep faith alive. She wrote through seasons, through new schools, new cities, new versions of herself. Sometimes she'd laugh at her own words, realizing how time had sharpened her edges. Her handwriting matured, but the tenderness in her letters remained untouched. It wasn't longing for what was lost, it was gratitude for what once gave her direction. Maybe that's what true love really is. Not clinging, but remembering with peace. Across the ocean, James was too consumed by survival to think about the past. While she wrote under soft lamplight, he worked under flickering office bulbs, chasing contracts instead of dreams. He didn't know someone still believed in him. Yet, sometimes at night he'd feel a strange calm, like the echo of her voice reaching through the years. Fate has a way of whispering to those who've stopped listening. The letters never reached him. They crossed borders, were lost in systems, or never mailed at all. But maybe they didn't need to. Maybe destiny was saving them for another moment, when the timing would finally be right. After all, promises made under an oak tree don't fade. They wait. And fate was just getting started with its plan. Years passed like chapters she didn't remember writing. Lina returned to the country she once called home, not chasing the past, but looking for a new beginning. The skyline looked taller, faster, unfamiliar. Yet beneath all the noise, she felt something familiar. A quiet pull, like the whisper of that old promise buried under time and distance. Maybe some roots never die even when they've been cut. She carried herself differently now, grounded, confident, her laughter quieter but wiser. People said she had the look of someone who's been through storms and learned to dance in the rain. She didn't come back searching for anyone, she came back to find herself. But destiny often hides behind ordinary days, waiting for the right moment to interrupt. And that interruption was already on its way. While she unpacked her life into a small apartment near downtown, somewhere across the city, James Hahn was sealing a deal that would change his company forever. He didn't know that the same city skyline he admired was now watching over her too. He lived in control, success, discipline, order, everything she wasn't supposed to disrupt again. Yet fate doesn't ask for permission. That night, as rain tapped against her window, Lina smiled for no reason. Maybe it was the city's rhythm, maybe intuition. She didn't know that miles away, James stood by his office window, restless, staring at the same storm. Two people under the same sky, unaware that destiny was already setting the stage for their reunion. One ordinary morning at one extraordinary company. Lina didn't expect much when she applied for the job. It was just another step, a way to rebuild, to start clean. The company was massive, known for its precision and perfection, a world far removed from the simple life she'd led abroad. But when she received the acceptance email from Hahn Dynamics, something stirred in her chest. She brushed it off as nerves. She had no idea fate had just pressed send too. Her first day felt like stepping into another universe, sharp suits, echoing halls, ambition humming in the air. Everyone seemed to know where they belonged, except her. Still, Lina carried her calm like armor. She was determined to prove she deserved her place, not through charm or noise, but through quiet excellence. It was that quiet that would soon catch someone's attention. She hadn't met the CEO yet, but his name filled every corner like myth. James Hahn, brilliant, ruthless, a visionary who turned nothing into everything. The kind of man people feared and admired in equal measure. When his photo appeared on the company profile, she froze. The name struck a chord she couldn't explain. Maybe coincidence, or maybe destiny knocking softly again. That evening, as she walked past the glass elevator, she caught a glimpse of him in the distance, tall, poised, untouchable. Her breath hitched, but she didn't know why. Something in the way he stood felt familiar. The kind of familiarity that rattles your soul before your mind can catch up. She turned away quickly, unaware that his eyes had already found her too. Their first real meeting wasn't planned. The elevator doors opened and there he was, the man everyone respected, feared, and followed. But when their eyes met, time lost its rhythm. James felt something stir, a memory that had no name yet. And Lina, though she couldn't explain it, knew that kind of recognition doesn't happen twice in a lifetime. Some souls simply remember each other. He spoke first, his tone clipped, professional. "You're the new project coordinator?" She nodded, steady but aware of the strange tension between them. It wasn't attraction, not yet. It was something deeper, buried under years of silence. His gaze lingered 1 second too long, as if his mind tried to catch a shadow that wouldn't stay still. After that day, he found himself noticing her more often, the way she thought before speaking, the calm confidence that reminded him of someone he used to know, someone from a summer he'd long buried. Lina, on the other hand, didn't know what to make of his distant warmth. It felt like standing close to a fire you weren't sure would burn or heal. That night, she replayed their encounter in her mind, not out of longing but curiosity. There was something haunting about him, something that stirred echoes she couldn't name. She didn't believe in coincidences, not really. But destiny, that was harder to dismiss. And this was just the beginning of something fate had waited years to deliver. James Hahn was known for his precision. Every word calculated, every decision measured. He'd built his empire with a focus so sharp it left little room for warmth. People said he never smiled, that success had made him untouchable. But behind the polished glass of his office, there were moments when silence pressed too hard and he'd wonder why happiness always felt like something he'd postponed. Lina didn't buy into the myth. She saw beyond the suits, the posture, the control. There was something in his eyes, a quiet exhaustion, a restlessness that didn't belong to power, but to loneliness. Sometimes, she caught him looking out the window, as if searching for something that used to make sense. She didn't know that what he searched for had once been her. At meetings, their interactions were brief but charged. He admired her ability to stay calm under pressure, the way she spoke with clarity but without arrogance. She reminded him of a time when kindness wasn't a weakness. He didn't know how to say it, but her presence made the air in the room softer. That realization scared him more than failure ever did. Lina never tried to impress him. She simply worked with quiet excellence, and perhaps that's why he noticed. She was different from everyone trying to climb their way into his favor. She wasn't chasing success, she was rebuilding herself. And though neither of them knew it yet, that quiet strength would soon challenge everything he thought he wanted. It happened on a Thursday morning, the kind that starts too early and ends too fast. Lina carried a tray of reports and a cup of coffee she hadn't yet tasted. She turned the corner and collided right into him. The cup slipped, coffee spilling across his suit. Silence hit harder than the accident itself. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then his voice broke through, low and controlled. "Be careful next time." She expected anger, humiliation, the usual reaction from a man who ruled the building. But instead he simply handed her his handkerchief. "No harm done," he murmured, though his eyes said otherwise. Not annoyance, but something unreadable. She apologized, steady and composed, refusing to shrink under his gaze. James didn't know why that calm unsettled him more than the spill. Later he replayed that moment, irritated at himself for caring. He wasn't used to uncertainty, it didn't fit his schedule, yet something about her composure lingered. The way she didn't flinch, didn't rush to justify herself. He'd met hundreds of people who wanted his approval. She didn't seem to need it. That oddly made him want to understand her more. Lina brushed off the incident and went back to work, but his voice echoed faintly in her mind. Not the words, the tone. Firm, restrained, almost gentle. She didn't know that this brief, awkward moment would be the first crack in his carefully built world. And cracks, no matter how small, always let light through. Rumors travel fast in tall buildings. It didn't take long for Lina to hear whispers about the CEO's engagement to the daughter of a wealthy business family. Her name was Evelyn Moore, and her presence was impossible to ignore. She visited the office often, her perfume lingering long after she left, her laughter sharp enough to slice through silence. Power had a face, and it wore red lipstick. When Lina first met her, it wasn't in a boardroom but by accident in the lobby. Evelyn's gaze scanned her from head to toe, not curious, but calculating. "You're the new coordinator?" she asked, voice smooth as glass. Lina nodded politely. Evelyn smiled, the kind that doesn't reach the eyes. "How sweet," she said before turning away. That single moment said everything, and nothing needed repeating. James saw the tension, though neither woman mentioned it. His engagement had never been about love. It was about legacy, alliances, and expectations. Evelyn was beautiful, clever, and utterly strategic. But lately, when he stood beside her at events, his mind wandered elsewhere, to a quiet presence in the office who never tried to impress him. Guilt came easily, but so did confusion. Lina didn't let the encounter rattle her. She'd faced worse. Yet something about Evelyn's disdain felt oddly personal, as if jealousy had roots deeper than logic. Still, she chose silence. Dignity was her weapon. But fate never leaves tension unresolved for long. And soon, one careless moment would shatter the calm, revealing more than either of them was ready to face. The office was quiet that night, the kind of silence that hums after everyone leaves. James walked past her desk, ready to call it a day, when something caught his eye. A small notebook, edges worn, left slightly open. He paused. On the corner of a yellowed page in neat, delicate handwriting was a name carved in childish curves, Lina. His breath stilled, the air thick with recognition he couldn't explain. He traced the letters lightly, as if touching a memory he'd buried long ago. That name, that exact handwriting, belonged to a summer he thought he'd imagined. A girl beneath an oak tree, her laughter steady and brave. But how could it be her? After all these years, after oceans and ambitions, the thought was absurd, and yet his pulse betrayed him, racing like that 10-year-old boy who once made a promise under the sun. For the first time in years, James couldn't focus. Meetings blurred, voices became noise. Every glance at her felt heavier now, every word measured with a quiet urgency. He studied her handwriting again, searching for proof, for something rational. But the truth didn't fit logic. Sometimes fate doesn't return gently, it collides, demanding to be seen. And James was seeing her everywhere. That night, he stood by his office window, city lights reflecting in his eyes. He whispered her name once, testing how it felt after so long. It didn't feel foreign. It felt like coming home to a language he used to speak. Still, doubt lingered. Could the girl from his memories truly be the woman downstairs? He needed answers, and soon, fate would give him one, in a way he never expected. The realization struck him without warning, quiet but undeniable. That name, that presence, the way she carried calm like armor. It all aligned too perfectly to be chance. James began watching her differently, not with curiosity, but with recognition that crept in like light under a closed door. Every word she spoke felt like déjà vu, every glance a memory disguised as the present. He searched for proof, but found emotion instead. The little things gave her away. The way she tapped her pen when thinking, how she tilted her head before answering, the same habits the girl under the oak once had. His logical mind resisted, but his heart already knew. Time hadn't erased her, it had simply waited. For the first time in years, he felt something stronger than control. He felt alive. Lina noticed the shift too, though she couldn't name it. The once distant CEO now lingered after meetings, his questions softer, his tone more human. It unsettled her, yet she didn't retreat. Part of her wanted to ask why his gaze felt so familiar, but the answer hovered between them like an unfinished sentence. Some truths reveal themselves slowly, like dawn rising over uncertainty. At night, he sat alone in his office, replaying old memories that no longer felt like dreams. Could destiny truly bring two people full circle after so much time? He didn't know, but the thought both thrilled and terrified him. Love, he realized, wasn't just something you remember. It's something that remembers you. And this story was only beginning to awaken. It didn't take long for Evelyn to notice the shift in him. James had grown distant, distracted, his attention divided by something she couldn't name. She wasn't used to being second in anyone's story. Whispers began spreading through the office corridors, quiet, sharp, and poisonous. They said the CEO's fiancé was watching someone. They said the new coordinator should be careful. Lina felt the weight of those whispers like invisible eyes following her. She didn't respond, didn't defend herself. Dignity, she knew, was the loudest silence. Evelyn, however, thrived on control. She began appearing more often, at lunches, in meetings, anywhere Lina might be. Her smiles grew colder, her tone sharper, but Lina never flinched. She'd faced storms before, this was just wind. James saw the tension but said nothing. Confrontation would only make things worse, or so he told himself. Still, guilt twisted inside him. He was the reason for Evelyn's cruelty, the reason Lina's name now lived in rumor. Every time he caught her eyes across the room, something in him wanted to fix it. But power doesn't teach you how to protect without breaking rules. Evelyn's jealousy had begun as curiosity, but was turning into strategy. And James, caught between expectation and truth, realized silence could be more dangerous than confession. Fate had tied the strings tight, pulling everyone closer to the edge. The calm before the inevitable crack had arrived, and it would happen sooner than any of them expected. The annual company dinner was supposed to be elegant, predictable, a night of speeches and champagne. Lina sat quietly among colleagues, her calm presence unnoticed until Evelyn entered the room like a storm wrapped in silk. She greeted everyone with charm sharp enough to cut, her smile fixed, her hand tightly looped around James's arm. He played his role, but his eyes, they wandered elsewhere. As the evening unfolded, Evelyn's words grew colder, sharper, the kind that draw blood without raising a voice. When conversation turned to Lina's department, She laughed softly. "She's done well," Evelyn said. "Considering where she started, a charity hire, wasn't it?" The table froze. Lina's chest tightened, not with shame, but with the discipline of restraint. Silence was sometimes more powerful than defense. James's jaw tightened. He could tolerate corporate games, but cruelty was a language he refused to learn. The room waited, uncertain, breathless, until his voice broke through. "Apologize." It wasn't loud, but it carried weight. Evelyn blinked, confused, then furious. "For what?" she snapped. He didn't flinch. "For forgetting that respect isn't optional." The silence that followed changed everything. Lina wished the floor would swallow her, not from embarrassment, but from the sudden gravity of his defense. She met his gaze across the table, steady, conflicted, unspoken. Something in that look told her everything was about to change. Rumors would explode, alliances would fracture, and destiny had just chosen sides. The storm wasn't coming. It had already arrived. By morning, everyone in the company had heard about the dinner. Whispers turned into headlines inside hallways, each version more exaggerated than the last. Some admired Lina's composure, others pitied her. But James's defense, that quiet, unwavering command, had changed how people looked at both of them. For the first time, he'd chosen principle over politics, and Evelyn, she would not forgive that. Evelyn's anger was silent at first, the kind that chills the air around her. But soon it grew teeth. She began cornering Lina in subtle ways, dismissive remarks, extra tasks, quiet humiliation wrapped as professionalism. Lina endured it all with the same grace that made Evelyn furious. There's a kind of strength that doesn't fight back. It simply refuses to bend. James noticed everything, and it tore at him. He wanted to intervene to make it stop, but any step could ignite chaos he wasn't ready to face. Every decision felt like betrayal in disguise to his company, his fiancée, or himself. He had built empires on control, but control was slipping one heartbeat at a time. Fate was moving the pieces faster than he could react. Lina didn't hate Evelyn. In truth, she felt pity for someone who couldn't tell the difference between love and possession. Yet, she sensed change coming. Life had that feeling before it broke open, quiet, tense, electric. And she knew one thing for sure: when truth comes knocking, it never leaves politely. The next knock would come sooner than anyone expected. It was late when he found her on the rooftop, city lights painting gold over concrete. Lina stood quietly, looking at the skyline like it held answers. He approached slowly, unsure if he came as her boss or as the boy who once made a promise under an oak tree. "You shouldn't be up here alone," he said. She smiled faintly. "I'm not." And somehow, she was right. He hesitated, then spoke, not as the CEO, but as James. "I remember." The words came out low, unsteady. "The tree, the promise, your name carved beside mine." Her expression didn't crumble, it steadied. "You remember, after all this time?" she asked softly. He nodded, almost ashamed. "I tried to forget. It didn't work." The city below blurred into something distant and small. For a long moment, neither spoke. The wind carried everything they couldn't say: the years, the missed chances, the weight of what-ifs. He told her about the engagement, about obligations dressed as choices. It was never about love, he confessed. It was about power. Lina listened, not judging, not saving him, just witnessing. Sometimes, understanding is the deepest kind of forgiveness. He looked at her then, really looked, and saw the life he'd been chasing without knowing it. "If things were different," he began, but stopped himself. She shook her head gently. "They aren't, and that's okay." Her calm broke him more than tears ever could. Destiny had reunited them, but only to test how much love could survive truth. Days after their rooftop conversation, Lina left an envelope on his desk. No name, no note, just his initials in soft ink. Inside was a letter, old and yellowed by time. The paper trembled slightly in his hands as he unfolded it. The first line stopped him cold. "If you ever find this, it means destiny kept its word." He didn't breathe for a moment. Her words were a bridge to a life he'd forgotten. She had written those letters years ago, when oceans separated them and hope was her only company. Each sentence carried traces of her strength, her humor, her patience. She never begged for love, she simply believed in it. As he read, something inside him cracked open. All the success, all the control felt suddenly small beside her quiet faith. He read every word until the ink blurred beneath his eyes. She had never sent the letters. She'd kept them, waiting for the day fate would deliver them in person. That realization hit him harder than any loss. Love hadn't abandoned him. He had abandoned love. And now it sat before him, written in her steady hand, forgiving without asking. That night, he closed his office door and sat in silence, the letter resting on his chest. For the first time in years, he didn't think about deals or deadlines. He thought about her, the girl who waited, the woman who never stopped believing. And though the world around him stayed the same, James Hahn knew his would never be again. The following week, the illusion of control shattered. Evelyn's father, Robert Moore, summoned James to a private meeting. Behind the smile of a businessman hid a threat sharp enough to cut careers in half. "If you cancel the wedding," he warned, "I'll destroy everything you've built." The words landed like iron. James sat still, mask unbroken, but inside, every heartbeat echoed Lina's name. Power suddenly felt like a prison. That night, he paced his penthouse, lights dimmed, city asleep. The engagement had always been a contract, but now it felt like a cage closing around him. Every compromise he'd ever made stared back, demanding justification. How many times can a man trade his heart for reputation before he forgets what either means? He poured a drink untouched, watching his reflection fade in the glass. Meanwhile, Lina sensed the shift without needing words. He was distant again, polite, composed, unreachable. She told herself it didn't matter, that their worlds had never been meant to merge. Yet deep down, she knew he was protecting something, or someone. And that knowledge hurt more than betrayal ever could. Silence can be its own kind of heartbreak. In the end, it was Lina who made the choice neither of them could. She decided to walk away before love turned into collateral damage. It wasn't weakness, it was mercy. Some people fight for love, others protect it by letting go. And as she began to write her resignation letter, fate prepared to test whether promises truly survive separation twice. She didn't plan a dramatic exit, just silence. One morning before the office lights came on, Lina left her resignation letter on his desk. No explanations, no demands, just a folded page and her badge beside it. It was the quiet kind of goodbye that hurts more than words. When James arrived hours later, he knew instantly. The absence in the air was louder than her presence ever was. He read the letter 3 times, as if doing so could rewrite its ending. There were no accusations, only gratitude and finality. "Thank you for the opportunity. Some chapters aren't meant to overlap." That line lingered like a wound he couldn't close. For a man who had mastered every form of control, this loss was the one he hadn't prepared for. Days blurred into nights, meetings into noise. He buried himself in work, chasing distraction like oxygen. But every corridor, every coffee cup, every quiet corner still carried her trace. He'd built a world to keep chaos out, yet she had become the one thing he couldn't contain. And that realization turned his success into sand, slipping through his hands. Lina didn't look back. She moved through the city with quiet resolve, refusing to become a ghost of what-ifs. Yet some promises don't end with distance, they wait. And while she rebuilt her life elsewhere, James stood alone in the empire he'd built, holding everything except the one thing he truly wanted. Fate, as always, wasn't finished with them yet. Months passed, but time did little to quiet the noise in his mind. James threw himself into work, desperate to rebuild the order Lina's absence had unraveled. Then came the audit. Numbers that didn't add up, accounts hidden behind fake names. As he followed the trail, one truth began to surface, dark and deliberate. The Moore family had been bleeding his company dry under the disguise of partnership. Shock turned quickly to anger. The engagement, the merger, the pressure, all of it had been built on deceit. He had traded his freedom for a lie. Evelyn's father had tied every deal to strings meant to control him, not to grow the company. And in that revelation, James felt something he hadn't in years: clarity. Fate wasn't punishing him. It was freeing him. He broke the agreement in one ruthless stroke. The boardroom fell silent as he announced the termination of every contract with Moore Holdings. Evelyn protested, her charm dissolving into rage. "You'll regret this," she hissed. He didn't respond. For the first time, his silence belonged to peace, not fear. Some wars end not with noise, but with a quiet decision to stop kneeling. As he walked out of that meeting, the air felt different, lighter. The empire was wounded, but finally honest. Yet victory came with a price. The only person he wanted to share it with was gone. Still, destiny had a way of closing circles. And somewhere beyond the city lights, a name he once carved into an oak tree waited to be found again. The office felt different now. Quieter, almost sacred. Success still echoed in every corner, but it no longer sounded like triumph. James stood by the glass wall overlooking the city, the same view that once made him feel invincible. Yet all he saw now was distance, between who he was and who he might have been if he'd chosen differently. The silence wasn't peaceful, it was heavy with absence. Her desk remained untouched, the faint scent of her perfume still lingering in the air. He hadn't moved her notebook, hadn't erased her presence. Every morning he told himself he'd let go, and every evening he failed again. It wasn't obsession, it was memory refusing to die. Love, he realized, doesn't always leave with the person. Sometimes it stays to remind you of what it cost. He tried to fill the void with purpose, new projects, new faces, new routines. But even victory had lost its taste. He found himself glancing at the door, half expecting her to walk through it, half fearing she never would. Regret doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just lingers quietly in the spaces where laughter used to be, and that silence was the loudest sound of all. At night, when the city lights dimmed, he'd stay behind long after everyone left. The empire he'd built, once his greatest proof of success, now felt hollow without meaning. He thought of Lina, of her calm, her faith, her unspoken courage. For the first time, he envied simplicity more than power. But destiny was already moving again, preparing the next chapter he couldn't yet see. Eventually, success no longer kept him company. Longing did. James used every resource, every contact, every thread of influence to find her. Old addresses, former colleagues, even mailing records, nothing led anywhere. It was as if Lina had dissolved into the wind. The world called him powerful, but in truth he'd never felt smaller. Power can move markets, not hearts. And his heart was the one thing out of reach. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. He traveled on business, but every city became a question. Is she here? Sometimes he'd catch a glimpse of a woman with her posture, her walk, her calm, but it was never her. Fate seemed to play hide and seek, offering hope just to snatch it away. Yet he kept searching. Love, once awakened, doesn't rest easily. Then one rainy evening, while driving through the countryside, he took a wrong turn, or maybe the right one. He stopped when he saw it, an old oak tree standing alone, older now, but still holding their carved names like a secret it never betrayed. The sight hit him harder than truth. Time had aged everything but that promise. It waited, as if expecting him. He stepped closer, breath caught between past and present. Hanging from one of its branches was a small glass bottle, glinting under the rain. Inside, a folded piece of paper, his name written in the same delicate hand he'd once known. His pulse faltered. Fate had spoken, not through chance but through memory. And suddenly the search didn't feel endless anymore. It felt guided. The glass felt cold in his hands, trembling slightly as he pulled out the note inside. The paper was damp around the edges, but her handwriting, elegant, steady, had survived. If we were meant to meet again, fate will bring you to me. A single sentence, simple yet infinite. James exhaled, the sound caught between disbelief and awe. Destiny hadn't forgotten. It had just been waiting for him to arrive. He stood under the rain, letter pressed to his chest, letting the moment wash over him. Years of silence, regret, and searching all led here, to a tree that remembered what people forgot. He smiled for the first time in forever, a real smile, the kind that starts deep inside. For once, success, money, and status meant nothing. Only love had currency now. Back in the car, he unfolded the note again, tracing her words with his thumb. They carried her essence, calm, resilient, forgiving. Lina had never stopped believing in what they once promised, not even when time made fools of them both. That realization broke something in him, but gently. Hope didn't hurt anymore, it healed. For the first time, he felt ready to begin again. He whispered into the quiet as if she could somehow hear, "I'll find you this time." The rain softened, the storm easing into calm. Somewhere, he felt the pull again, the invisible thread between two hearts finally tightening. He didn't know where she was, but he knew this. Destiny doesn't repeat itself by accident, and fate had just reopened the map. Months later, the ocean had replaced the city skyline. Lina owned a small coffee shop by the shore, a place where the world finally felt quiet enough to breathe. Mornings smelled of salt and espresso, and she found peace in the rhythm of ordinary days. She no longer waited for fate, she lived beside it. Yet sometimes, when the wind shifted, she'd glance toward the horizon, not in longing, but in wonder. Her life was simple but not small. Locals adored her kindness, travelers lingered for her calm. There was warmth in her solitude, the kind born from survival, not sadness. She didn't talk about her past, though it lived in the way she smiled at strangers. Every cup she served was a quiet prayer of gratitude. She had let go of the pain, but not the meaning behind it. That afternoon, the rain returned, soft, familiar, rhythmic. The bell above the door chimed, and she turned automatically, towel in hand. A man stood at the entrance, drenched, holding something in his grasp. A glass bottle. Her breath caught, the sound of the ocean fading into silence. He looked older, worn by success and years, but his eyes hadn't changed. "Lina," he said, voice trembling, as if saying her name made everything real again. She didn't move, only stared, the truth unfolding without words. Between them stood time, forgiveness, and the proof that destiny doesn't miss its mark. It just takes the long way home. And as the rain fell harder, she realized the waiting was finally over. The shop went still, the rain whispering against the glass. For a long time, neither of them spoke. It wasn't awkward, it was reverent, as if breaking the silence too soon would undo the miracle of that moment. James took a slow step forward, the bottle still in his hand. "I never stopped looking for you," he said quietly. His voice cracked, not from weakness, but from relief. Lina's eyes softened, not with tears, but with understanding. "You were late," she said with a small smile that carried years of forgiveness. He let out a breath that almost sounded like a laugh. "Fate took the scenic route," he replied. Between them, the distance of time folded like a closing book. It wasn't about starting over. It was about continuing what had waited to be finished. He told her everything, the lies, the engagement, the deal that nearly destroyed him. She listened without interruption, her expression calm but not indifferent. When he finally stopped, she said softly, "You don't owe me apologies, James. You owe yourself peace." It was the kind of grace that humbles you, the kind only love without expectation can give. Outside, the storm began to clear. He reached for her hand, hesitant at first, then certain. "I was afraid I'd lost you forever." She shook her head. "You never did. You just had to remember the way back." Their hands fit the same way they had years ago, imperfectly but right. And as light broke through the clouds, the world seemed to begin again. They chose the same place where everything began, beneath the oak that had witnessed their first promise. The carving of their names was still there, faded but not forgotten. Time had tried to erase it, but love is stubborn. The ceremony was small, intimate, just family, close friends, and the whisper of the wind through old branches. It wasn't grand, but it was sacred. Lina walked down the short aisle barefoot, the grass cool under her feet. She carried no bouquet, only the letter he once found in the bottle. When James saw her, his breath caught, the way it had when they were 10 and didn't know what love was yet. Every step she took toward him felt like destiny, fulfilling its own promise. There were no tears, just quiet awe. They didn't exchange vows written by someone else. They spoke from memory, of waiting, of loss, of faith that never broke. "I found you once," he said, "and I'll keep finding you in every tomorrow." Her reply was simple. "Then let's stop waiting." Laughter replaced applause, and the air carried something lighter. Peace at last after so many unfinished chapters. As they stood under the same tree, the sunlight broke through, scattering gold across their joined hands. The oak seemed to hum with life again, as if recognizing the two souls it had guarded. There was no grand ending, no cinematic music, just a quiet heartbeat shared between two people who had finally come home. And sometimes that's all forever really means. Every year on the same day they returned to the oak tree, not out of nostalgia but gratitude. Lina would bring a small glass bottle, and James would write the message. It became their quiet ritual, a reminder that love, when rooted deep enough, always finds its way back. They didn't need grand gestures anymore. They had peace, and that was rarer than anything money could buy. Each note they left carried something new: lessons, hopes, bits of laughter. One year it read, "Patience taught us what time couldn't." Another year, "Love doesn't need to be loud to last." Sometimes they signed their names, sometimes they didn't. The tradition wasn't for anyone else to find, it was for them. A private dialogue with destiny itself. Seasons changed and life moved gently around them. The company thrived, their home filled with small joys, coffee in the morning, shared silence at night. There were still storms, but they faced them differently now, not as two halves searching for completion, but as one whole finally at rest. They had waited long enough, now they simply lived. And under that same oak tree, the wind carried their final message someday. May love always find its way back, no matter how long it takes. The bottle glinted in the sun, another story sealed for time to keep. Fate, watching quietly, smiled. It had kept its promise after all, and so did they. Every year, forever in the language of waiting and return. Some promises take years to be fulfilled, but when they are, they remind us why waiting was worth it. Lina and James proved that destiny isn't about perfect timing. It's about hearts that refuse to forget. Sometimes love doesn't come back to make us suffer. It returns to show us how much we've grown. Have you ever waited for someone, or something, that life eventually brought back to you in an unexpected way? Do you believe in second chances, or do you think fate only gives us one? Tell me in the comments. Your story might be the one someone else needs to hear tonight. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who still believes in love that finds its way home. Because sometimes, one story can remind us that hope, just like love, never really disappears.